Hello, today I will be discussing feminism and the second wave of feminism. So, what is feminism and how does it affect women? The definition of feminism given to us provided by Merriam-Webster in 2024 is the belief in advocacy of the political and economic and social equality of the sexes expressed especially through organized activity on behalf of women's rights and interests. So this is just an overall definition of what it is. There are many different forms and versions of feminism, and it's not really held down into one common definition. So in the 1800s, this is when the first wave started to occur. It was majority of middle-class white women. It didn't include women of color or women who were rich or who lived below the poverty line. It was just middle-class white women who became a little upset with how things were going in their life. They did not have a great public reaction, and it kind of ended very quickly because the men were unhappy with their wives or the women in their life starting to gain consciousness and understand that they had a greater responsibility than just staying in the house, cooking or cleaning or doing whatever the men told them to do. So there wasn't a great reaction, and it quickly kind of died down for a while. So the feminist movement started because they wanted equality across the board. They wanted to be viewed the same as men and be given the same opportunities as men. They also wanted to decrease the high rates of sexism that they were experiencing, whether that be in the workplace or at home or simply just walking down the street. They just wanted to eradicate all of that. And like previously mentioned, they just wanted the same opportunities, whether that's politically, economically, or just in everyday life. So the second wave of feminism really kick-started because of the 19th Amendment. Once women gained consciousness a little bit more and they decided they wanted to go for the right to vote, this kind of kick-started a new movement with a new group of women, and we'll discuss what the second wave is shortly. So the second wave started in the 1960s through the 1970s, and this movement or wave included a lot more women. It allowed women of color and other races to sort of become more hands-on and start thinking and speaking about what they wanted to happen. So it wasn't just white women anymore of the middle class. It also included women of all social economic statuses. So they really had a lot of people to bounce opinions off of, gain ideas from, and pave the way for the movement to continue. The civil rights movement also played a huge part in this second wave of feminism because women of color could now help out women who were white and vice versa. So they knew that they had each other's back because they all had one common goal in mind. Through this, they used marches, protests, and public speaking to further their awareness on the matter. One of the most popular leaders or organizers or faces of the feminist movement was Betty Friedan, who wrote The Feminine Mystique. And this book was a series of interviews of many different women of different backgrounds, and they just sort of told their story on how they're feeling and what they want to achieve, and that they're not really happy with where they are right now. And this book allowed a lot of women to open their eyes and see that they're not alone and that they have support across the nation, if not the world, that they're all fighting for the same thing, which was equal rights. And all of this information about Betty Friedan came from the National Women's History Museum in 2022. So as the feminist movement started to kick up again and further its work, there was a split between the movement. So the first split or half of the movement was the liberal feminism group. They really focused on workplace rights. They weren't really concerned with discrimination and sexual objectification of women. They just really wanted to be able to go to work, have the same opportunities, get the same pay as men that were getting. So that was liberal feminism. And then the radical feminism and women's liberation group is the same thing. They wanted equality across the board. And this group was very theory-driven in the idea that they thought women could not be equal to men if they were not equal within themselves. And this is a hard thing to support when it's only theory-based, because women need to see action and they wanted to see things being carried out and policies changed, but nothing was coming of this group because it was so theory-driven. And this came from a Sage article from Epstein in 2022. So a couple of programs that were created, there were many that were created from this, but a couple that I wanted to touch on, first being the National League of Women Voters. This group became a group in 1920, and they really just urged women to become more politically active, because in order for them, like I said, to pass their policies and get what they want out of this movement, they need to put themselves in a position of power and start voting and having an impact on legislation. It's also important to note that they supported Title IX, which is discrimination towards women. This is something that I put in this presentation because we still discuss Title IX today, especially in the University of Mount Union. They also ended up integrating men, and this is important because it shows that feminists don't hate men. They don't have anything against them. They just want to be equal to them. And the fact that they integrated men showed the world that it's not hate, it's wanting equality. The second program created was the Women's Employed Program. This was in 1973 with non-union workers. They focused on economic equality and sex discrimination in the workplace. They really wanted to feel like they could go to work, get their job done, the same as a man could get their job done, and not have to go through sexual discrimination while they're doing their job. They wanted it to just be free of hatred and prejudice, and just go to work and then come home at the end of the day. They also focus on economic equality, this being they wanted equal pay to what the men were also receiving. The third program is the National Abortion Rights Action League. And this is a very important program because abortion and reproductive rights are something that feminists and all women as a whole hold close to their hearts. And it's something that we're still working on today, and things are still changing today. They did a lot of legislation work. They were very active in government policies and sort of swaying things left or right. And here are my references. Thank you.